This will be an emergency AA meeting immediately following this Q&A.
The Q&A will start promptly at 9 a.m. because we made everyone get up so early. There will be no late arrivals.
Let's see. Today we're in some sort of island. And then tonight is the live JoCo band karaoke. Followed immediately thereafter by a regular karaoke hosted by David Reese and John Roderick. We're going to be collecting.
I'm excited.
We're going to be collecting the sign-up sheets for that probably while everyone is in port this afternoon, so we can get things organized. So if you want to sign up, you should probably do it before you go onto the island this morning. That's about all I can think of for right now. So we will turn things over to school disciplinarian, and what's the name of the guy that rides around and looks for truant kids? The truant officer? It's that kind of morning, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, school truant officer and official pencil sharpener of JoCo Cruise Crazy, David Reese.
All right, let's get started. This is the performer Q&A. This is your one opportunity to interact with the performers, so we really want to make the most of it. These are the performers, most if not all, most of the performers. So this is how it's going to work. I'm a fiend for structure and discipline. And actually, it's interesting that you mentioned truant officer, because when I was in 6th grade, I was actually a member of Safety Patrol, where you wear that bright orange sash, you know, and then you monitor the crosswalk. And you get to stop parents' cars like in their tracks just by like putting up your hand and walk. Oh, it was a real rush, you know. Because usually I defer to authority, but there's something so wicked and pleasurable about subverting authority. A child telling an adult to stop driving is profound. That's all I'm saying. Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go down the row. Everyone will just say their name and 1 or 2 sentences about what they do and why they're here, okay? And then we're going to solicit questions from the audience. You'll approach these microphones and wait in line. You've seen C-SPAN, you know how it works. I would ask that you keep your question kind of brief, right? And then if you want to direct it to an individual or a certain subset of these performers, make that clear, all right? Because some of these guys might start answering your question. That's 20 minutes down the hole right there, and you didn't even care about their opinion, all right? Remember, you guys are the children wearing the bright orange sashes. These are the adults in the vehicles. You have the power just for this one morning, all right? Okay, let's begin. Who are you and why are you here?
I'm Aubrey. I'm a part of the Double Clicks and I play the cello.
You can stay. Good answer. Next.
My name is Angela. I'm also part of the Double Clicks and I play the guitar and stuff.
I'm Mike Furman. I'm part of the Double Clicks. I play guitar and piano.
I am Will Wheaton. I'm a motherfucking wizard.
My name is Joseph Scrimshaw. I am a comedian and a writer and a man who witnessed a pony almost attack Will Wheaton. That's why I came here.
My name is Bill Corbett. I am famous for my artisanal cheeses. And also riff tracks and Mystery Science Theater.
I am the walrus.
Bless you. I'm Jonathan Colton, and I'm feeling pressure to come up with a joke here.
I'm Paul Saborin, and today is Mike Furman's birthday.
Enough.
Bill, you need to live with me.
You're up.
I'm John Roderick, Starship Captain.
My name is John Hodgman. I am the villain of the piece. If you are wondering where Zoe Keating is, I have tied her to the train tracks of this ship's onboard subway system.
Kevin Murphy, former puppeteer. Thank you.
All right, line up and start asking questions.
By the way, they have asked the folks waiting in line who are not yet asking questions if you could kneel down or sit down so as to not block the views of the people behind you.
Yeah,
that would
like
be
that.
appreciated
Kneel down.
by the people behind
Just
you.
as long as your forehead is touching the ground is whatever position you want to take this from. There just needs to be 4 people genuflecting at any given time.
So kneel down if you're not at the...
Kneel
on your
before
knees,
song.
get on your knees.
Or on your butt.
You don't have to go all the way. So, guys, this is one of those amazing moments. Who should ask the first question? This dude or this dude? Yeah, totally this guy. You got burned, son. All right. What's your name and what's your question?
I hear
And where do you live?
burn ward on this ship.
I'm Hank Schiffman, Mountain View, California.
Bend the microphone down closer to your mouth.
I can do that.
There you go.
All right, question for Joseph. What have you been up to in the years since we saw you last?
I am an alcoholic.
Hi, Joseph.
That's a profession, not an activity.
Yeah, it's more of a hobby, I think. Yes, exactly. I'm a writer. Yes, I'm a writer, so alcoholic is redundant. I've been writing and performing. I started a podcast right before I got on the cruise last year. It's called Obsessed, and I've been doing that podcast. And the whole experience of being on the cruise has been great because when I first came on the cruise, I was coming kind of with Bill, not with Bill, but you know. Yes, I was his helper monkey. And I was mostly doing kind of theater stuff, and I really wanted to move into a direction of being more of a stand-up storyteller who could just appear without all the baggage of a costume and a narrative. Boring. So I've really just been focusing on how I can be doing that stuff locally in Minneapolis, but also making it reach out to all the awesome people I've met on places like the cruises and conventions. So making sure that I do shows that are in Minneapolis, but I can record them and sell them to the internet and whatnot.
Now you mentioned the podcast. Everyone here knows what that is, right? How many people here, raise your hand, how many people here, raise your hand, have never listened to a podcast? Yeah, really? Are you serious? I want these people on stage, I want these people off the stage. Do you know what a podcast is? What's your name? What's your name?
I'm a swan.
And you've never listened to a podcast? You know what? Keep it up. Respect. Also, if they do this cruise next year and you come and we do the Q&A, if I'm wearing these exact same clothes, and we'll have this, and then I'll ask you again, have you ever listened to a podcast? And say no. I'll give you $100. All right.
By the way, we'll allow that because it was the first question and it's early, but that was bordering on buzz marketing, and we want you to know that we do not tolerate buzz marketing of any kind.
Wait, does that guy work for Joseph?
I could not say that he doesn't.
Come on, guys.
That is read all about the evil effects of buzz marketing at my website, willwheaton.net.
I don't want anyone who knows these people to ask a question to them.
I've never met that man, and I'll never speak to him again.
Yes, please nobody at all mention our new web series, Learning Town, which is on the Geek and Sundry channel.
Enough! Jesus, Paul, enough. They already know what a podcast is. Isn't that bad enough?
And I should have mentioned that we'll be doing an Obsessed here on the boat.
All right.
With Mr. Wheaton.
What's your name?
My name's Sean.
Where do you live?
I live in the San Francisco area.
I like it. What's your question?
All right. I see why they didn't want me to talk. But... Look, I just had a quick point of question for Principal Savorin. Could I have your attention for just a moment? Mike?
Oh! Safety patrol! Safety patrol! Safety patrol.
I'm rivaling you for villain at the moment. This is great. I just wanted to say that my cell phone surprisingly kicked in this morning with a new hour, and I want to confirm that all of the scheduled activities are proceeding according to yesterday's time. Is that right?
Okay.
Ship's time.
First of all, fuck you.
Hey. Let's keep it civil. There's children in here.
Fuck you, please.
It is the magic word.
You're a child, right?
Not anymore.
You need to get some new role models.
It's the day I am a man. Yes.
I'm just asking a simple chronometry question. I'd like to hear the answer.
Thank you, evil Lord.
This ship is its own time zone, I believe.
It is,
Yeah,
yes.
this ship stays on its ship time, which is Eastern Standard Time.
Yes.
And all the events scheduled for JoCo are on the ship time. However, when we go ashore today...
Correct. The both St. Thomas and St. Martin are both 1 hour ahead. So any clocks that are on shore are in that time zone.
The Atlantic time zone.
Atlantic time zone. Thank you very much.
So if you forget what time zone it is, just arrive at the time of the departure, and you'll be fine.
I forgot to bring my time machine. If you buy a fancy watch, it will be 1 hour ahead.
Yes.
So for all the ridiculing, it turns out this question is maybe the most important question you'll hear ever. So you're not stuck on St. Martin for the next year.
The only thing I will mention about this is any excursions that you have booked through the ship, I believe will be on ship time, and also the advantage of that is if your excursion is late for any reason, like your boat breaks down, has to get a tow, like happened, they will hold the boat until you get back. But if you book an excursion outside, if you just wander up to some guy who says, sure, come on, I'll take you to a beach in my van.
I will, though. I will take you to a good beach.
That's more buzz marketing for the cruise and the cruise activity.
We do not get a slice of the excursion fees yet.
I highly recommend that you go out on your own and just venture out and make your own time.
Like we did in Jamaica. That was fun. Remember?
That's the kind of thinking that makes you a captain.
All right, you're up. What's your name? Where do you live?
Let me just thank you for wasting your time with that important information. You can thank me by pulling my hair or kicking my
You're
ass.
still wasting our time.
Yes.
Move on.
Aren't you all glad you did not vote his the first question?
Let's have a really, really banging question right now. What's your name and where do you live?
My name's Suzanne. I live in London. And a question for everyone, I guess. I was wondering if, despite the fact that the internet is lovely and helpful and tolerant, you get hate mail. If you do, how you deal with it, and whether there's one piece of particularly awesome hate mail you ever got.
Anyone who has
Best question. I've always loved London. I think London is just an amazing world-class city, and with questions like that, it's no wonder. The topic is hate mail. We'll keep our answers relatively brief. If you have a specific phrase or clause that stands out in a missive you received,
Having
let us
recently launched a YouTube series.
know. All right, starting with the double clicks.
We get like YouTube comments that are negative and stuff, but fortunately our mom also watches the YouTube comments, so it evens out pretty well.
Does she respond to negative comments?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Is her account name actually Double Clicks Mom?
I wish.
I have a lot to think about. All right.
Probably not so much hate mail, but I write a lot of really stupid jokes on Twitter, so I'll get, I had somebody fire back, aside from just like dumb or something like that, somebody...
They burned you, man, you have to admit.
You wouldn't get those if you ban Wheaton from Twitter. But I had somebody the other day write I wrote a joke that's stupid
Say
fun.
it.
All right, it was something like, I'm sorry I didn't see your band at the Mint last night. I have abandonment issues. It was early. It's stupid. I was just like, fuck it. I'll send it. My drafts folder is longer than my Twitter feed, by the way. I was like, I gotta write something. Oh, that's dumb. And somebody was like, thief! You stole that from Jason Ritter, and he did it better. I was like, What the hell? No, I didn't. I don't know what you're talking about. I went over and looked at. He had like literally 5 or 6 hours earlier said, the kids from Honey I Shrunk the Kids went into an Altoid can and they're in abandonment or something like that. I was like, holy crap, that's amazing. And by the way, I didn't steal that. It's possible for 2 people to have the same thought. And then she was like, oh yeah, you're just pissed off because you got caught.
That's what Lee said.
Because that's what I'm doing. I'm following somebody who does puns and then turning around and writing puns. Like a famous person. That's the dumbest idea. Somebody accused me of stealing from Adam Carolla. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna follow somebody followed by millions of people and then pass that off as my own. Like no one's gonna notice.
Hey man,
It's been working really well for 9gag. It's been working really well for 9gag.
I don't know 9gag.
Nobody knows. The 5 other Redditors in the audience are like, yeah, fuck those guys.
So.
Hate mail?
No, not really. For pretty much the entirety of my nearly 30-year career, I have been universally lauded by everyone for everything that I've done. People just love me and the characters I portray.
Shut up, Wesley.
And
Joseph Scrimshaw, hate mail?
I did a play in the local theater festival, the Minnesota Fringe Festival, and it was a nightmare, and one of the characters was actually a character named the Anger Pony, and it used the pony mask that you'll see all over the ship. And people can write online reviews, and they can give you a rating of 1 to 5 kitties. And someone left a 1 kitty review and simply wrote, "Ponies, come on!"
Bill Corbett.
Sorry, Joseph, I just loathe ponies. Every fiber of my being. I find there's nothing that cuts to the quick so much as meh. And you know, I've learned to avoid comment sections in general, but every now and then on Twitter is where it is happening now, Mike Fern. And that's where all the bile comes. And yeah, I mostly do dumb stuff on Twitter, but every now and then someone feels the need to restate the premise of my joke back to me better. It's like, this is how you should have done it, Corbett. Take note. So, but the meh is the one that's just, I can't even be bothered to write more than 3 letters, you know? That's what you get.
Sidebar, real quick. John Hodgman, you have a big theory about meh. Would you share that with everyone right now? Meh. Meh is this word, M-E-H. You'll see it on the internet.
My big theory is that it's stupid and I hate it. It is.
Nah. There's a doctoral
If
thesis
anyone
in
here
that.
has ever written that, you are no friend to me, because it is a cliche, and B, you know, it is so often deployed to a Bill Corbett of the world, or anyone who has actually made a thing, whether it is a video or a tweet or a joke or a terrible pun like Mike Furman's. You know,
it was terrible.
Making a thing, I guess we can make enough. Making a thing is not always the thing you should do, internet. But when it's done, I think you acknowledge it. If you don't like it, you should acknowledge it by silence. Making a thing is always better than writing a meh.
Hear, hear.
By the way, if you want to know what feels really good, put up a terrible, terrible, dumb video on YouTube and then make the, what's it called? Disengage the comments. Like, don't allow comments. And I just picture trolls out there being like, that's, and they just jump into a pool and just sink to the bottom. Bubble for days.
Eventually their heads explode a la scanners.
Yeah.
Short one troll.
It's a good feeling. I did that the other day and I felt so good. I'm like, look back in the page and I'm like, ha! No bad comments. And this is the dumbest video I've ever made.
Storm, have you ever had anyone give you negative feedback?
Yeah. With the web series thing, it's part of our job to read and interact with the comments. Otherwise, normally the policy is ignore them. And you can write off the mez and the gay and the dumb and all that. Some cut more, but my favorite comment that we had is the actors who played Paul and Storm should have played the other character.
Actually, we have a confession to make. For the past 18 years, we have in fact been playing each other. He is married to my wife, I am married to his. It's a whole prestige thing we got going on.
And if I could, just sort of, there's the other part of the question about having a thick skin. Absolutely. But I think it can't just be armor. It's a good thing to sort of parse out the bile from criticism and find the stuff that's actually constructive.
So like chainmail, a filter system.
Yes, chainmail.
A little gets in.
Yeah.
And the only thing I would follow that up with is that you can describe it to the person who's making the comment rather than yourself. Well, it's more about them than me. They're just angry people, and the anonymity lets them say whatever. Beyond all of that, if you're creating stuff, you should get used to the fact that not everybody is going to like what you make. If you're trying to make something that everybody likes, you end up with shit like 2.5 Men.
But the weird thing is them having a forum. That's like you going and doing a show and then passing out a little slip of paper to everybody. And even if 90% of the people loved it and were applauding and having fun and laughing and everything, if you go back to your room later and read through them, the other 10% you'll see like, this sucked. And they were quiet, but then when you gave them a piece of paper and let them tell you, that sucked, now you're like, oh, well, I guess it wasn't great, all right. But otherwise it would have been a great 90% show, right?
I don't know, I didn't see it, Mike. I don't know.
Yeah,
Don't assume I enjoyed myself.
Most of the time people don't take the time to actually write me an entire email of hatred. Since the Glee thing, I've had quite a few people get angry at me for complaining.
Team Gleezy!
And my favorite was, there was a guy who was on Twitter, and he was Italian, and he kept writing me over. I usually just ignore them, but he was writing me over.
I know
and over
this.
again.
Italians?
Italians.
Okay.
No. Usually I just ignore it when people are saying mean stuff to me on Twitter. But they said, Jonathan Colton, shut up. You famous now. Glee help you, sucker. Like that. Except in an Italian accent. It's sort of like broken English, the same sentiment over and over again.
So
10 times in a row.
You thought I was Italian? Because I was really going for more Eastern European.
So I wrote back, I replied to him and I said, I can't really understand you, but thanks for being a fan. And then he replied to me, like in all caps, saying, I hate you, Jonathan Colton. And I wrote back and I said, I not hate you too, dude, thanks. And then he stopped writing me, so.
Troll Jitsu.
My public persona is argumentative and disagreeable. So there is no way that you can out-man me or hurt my feelings on the internet because I'm a pre-troll. I'm trolling you with my music and art and voice.
I receive a certain piece of hate mail, the same piece over and over and over again, from all over the world, roughly once a week, sometimes twice. I'm going to swear now, so I pre-apologize. Hello, baby. I pre-apologize to all the children and other little babies in this audience. The piece of hate mail I get once per week from a different person in a different part of the world every week is, what the fuck is Hodgman doing on my Battlestar Galactica? But my favorite piece of inordinately upset hate mail was when, years ago, I made a joke regarding our friend who is not here, Paul F. Tompkins, and I made reference to the famous Tintin characters, the detectives Tompkins and Tompkins. And someone wrote back, It's Thompson and Thompson, shithead. And they call me a villain.
Well, besides the fact that I actually got a death threat tweet one night when I was sitting out on my porch and someone said they were outside my house with a can of gasoline, they thought it was funny. But back when I first became pick up the puppet Tom Servo for Mystery Science Theater, and I'd done about 4 shows, this piece of mail comes in. It's a big package. It is a dot matrix. Remember when you used to be able to print out these posters? Big banner poster, 12 feet long, just said, "I hate Tom Servo's new voice." So I hung it up on the wall of my office as sort of a challenge and to let what I needed to overcome within myself and within my audience. And,
Did Josh Weinstein send that to you?
No, he's a very sweet man. He wouldn't have done that. I never found out, but I've made that person famous because I included him in the book that we wrote about the thing. I mean, it was a nice thing to do with an actual piece of hate mail. And I always thought a person's life has to be pretty empty if they're sending hate mail to a puppet.
Words to live by. That was a great question, actually. That was interesting. That was a good question. Okay, what's your name?
My name is Patrick.
Where do you live?
I live in Boston currently.
Wow, and you got here.
Yeah, I left early. So everyone here is a creative who's had periods of high productivity and low productivity, and my question now is, how do you recharge your engines once they kind of run dry?
Planning cruises.
Heroin.
Low productivity? I'm running at 100% at all moments, pal.
Well, are we going down this way?
Yeah, let's do that, yeah.
Well, I'll answer briefly and sincerely. When I finished the last book of the trilogy of books of fake facts that I was writing, and when the final thing that I did was to record the audiobook, then the paperback tour, and then a special based on the stand-up that I was doing around that book. So that was all done, and I realized that I was now out of material. I was out of projects. I didn't know what I was going to do next. So that was when John Roderick and I were having breakfast and wondering, now what do we do? And I thought that it would be a good thing to just book an hour at this small bar and performance space in Brooklyn every week for an indefinite period of time that I would have to fill up each week with new-ish material. And so that's what I was doing, because otherwise I wouldn't create anything new at all unless I had that terror that there was a stage that was waiting for me. And it's a really small room, and we've been having a good time. Right, Alice? Right. And so that is, I think setting an arbitrary deadline is great for yourself, but one of the things that we discovered in that conversation, John Roderick, was when we were talking about how, like, yeah, you can buy a gym membership, but you'll never go. You need to have some sort of external deadline, someone who is waiting on you, some cruise that is waiting on you, some other person who's going to be disappointed if you don't do it. And then you will make new stuff whether you want to or not, because your body will respond to that stress and something will come out of you. You know what I mean.
Yeah, black bile. The entire time that we have known each other, you, Cruisers, and I have been in a period of dramatically reduced productivity. It's all right. It's not your fault. It started before I met you. But I believe that the solution to my problem is to stop taking myself seriously and taking my work too seriously, and lighten up and just do a thing a week. I think Jonathan's thing a week thing was a brilliant way of putting yourself in the...
Yeah. Taking yourself seriously is an amazing procrastination tool.
It's terrible, and I am an incredibly self-serious person, and every time I start to write something, I critique it to death before it's even halfway done. And that isn't good, but I'm not able to master myself. So, writing that song right before coming on the cruise, and I was just describing to these guys today, I actually finished the chorus of my new song last night as I was pacing back and forth backstage. I changed some of the lyrics right before. So that that was the kind of risk of just like, well, if this is no good, there's no turning back now. And I wish I could do that more, or I aspire to do it more.
I really don't have anything to add because my answer was essentially what John Hodgman said, but not as eloquently of the setting an external deadline. I've always grew up being the I work best under pressure because I refuse to work under any other process. But it is extremely helpful, and as John said, you know, with the deadline, you'll create something, and it may not be the best thing you ever created, but you will create something, and that's, knowing is half the battle.
I think it's important to also, the idea of recharging is important, not just making yourself create, but finding a way to become interested in creating. And so for me, I really get excited when I find a thing that I can work on, a project or a direction that is just interesting to me, and it doesn't have anything to do with any potential output that I might or might not have. So, you know, I'll just find a piece of software that makes cool noises and spend, you know, an entire week just twiddling knobs and making cool sounds, not trying to create anything, but just playing.
But note that your version of recharging in that scenario is still making.
Yeah.
As opposed to just going to a beach or whatever.
Yeah, of course. But I think that it's important to, you don't always have to make something and publish something. Sometimes it's enough to just find something that you really want to make and explore it. And if it leads to something that you feel like is publishable, that's great. But if not, then you've just sort of used your creative brain, and that feels very good, even if you don't ultimately have a product at the end of it.
I'd like to add something very quickly because I just blurted out something stupid instead of actually engaging this question. Like that, I find recharging to be very, very helpful. And the way I did it when I was at the end of one part of my career and looking to start something else, and it was looking out into the void and seeing nothing there, I went to the most remote place on the planet that I could find and stayed there alone for a month. And just let my brain do the work. Well, I did paddle around on an island and walk on a beach, and it worked, and I came up with an idea for a book that did pretty well, and I had a wonderful time writing it, and lasted another 2 years of my life. There was my career right in front of me from disengaging for a month on a beach.
So a month on a tropical island, is that what you're suggesting? Yeah, that sounds great for everyone. Thanks.
Eminently workable.
Storm, did you have anything to add to Paul's response?
Yes, certainly a deadline and recharge are number one. Number two, Paul and I have something, this is sort of a negative factor that can keep you from trying. We have a shorthand for it. We call it schmoey schmohead. And it refers to...
How is that a shorthand?
Just take it on faith, that's what it's called, and there's a good reason for it. But the idea is, when you sit down and say, okay, it's time for me to write the thing, to do my thing, that there's the voice in your head when you have an idea and you sit down to do it, it says, no, that kind of sucks. You know, this is a stupid idea. And it's shmo shmo. Don't listen to it. It might be that that idea does suck, but in the process of trying to punch through, you will get to the place, or you won't. But certainly if you don't try, you will not.
How much of your and Paul's relationship is conducted in baby talk?
82.3%.
Certainly a disturbing amount, which is anything more than 0.
82.3. I just had, I'm sorry, this is a subject that is interesting to me. And so I'm going to speak just a little bit more on it. Now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, right. A lot of, when you're starting out, you have this, and you're just starting your first big creative enterprise, you've probably stored up about 15 to 30 years worth of ideas. And so if you're lucky and you're disciplined and you stick to it, that stuff will tumble out of you and you'll feel great. Then you'll reach a point where a number of us are sort of facing, where you've kind of worked through all of those ideas that you've had since college or your youth or whatever, and now you feel like you've got no ideas. And the reality is you never have no ideas. I don't know if you're ever facing this sort of thing, but even if you feel profoundly that you have no ideas, it's not true. And Linda Barry when we did that Portland show, the Livewire show, said something that was really meaningful to me, which is, because she deals with this stuff a lot, this issue of procrastination and feeling stuck or whatever. You just have to get your hands moving. And now I really am talking about creating and not masturbation. You know, whatever it is you do, you have to, even if you think you have nothing there, even if it's just typing, just start typing some words. Something unlocks, and you will eventually go into a space where you'll find an idea. And I'll say that Sarah Chickazul said something really good on her podcast about not talking about what you're working on when you're working on it, because I lost a whole idea. Like when you talk about something that you like, you get the pleasure of making it. I think this is what you said, right? You get the pleasure of making it without making it. And once you've burned that off, making it becomes this horrible chore, and you just put it aside, and it's never as fresh again anymore. So don't talk and get started. The end.
New chips, sunk chips. I think a lot of stuff has already been addressed eloquently about the long game of being disciplined in your creativity. For me, the more recent challenges and sort of revelations have come about daily creativity, how to recharge on a daily basis. Because I found myself, even though I'm pretty good about deadlines and keeping up a certain amount of work and feeling creative, having kind of miserable days as I create, just like, gotta get through this, I can feel the gears grinding, and not taking a lot of joy in the process, and remembering here and there that I used to. So I got a nice little sideways eye-opener from Zen meditation, where I've always wanted to meditate. You know, it always seems like something people say, oh, you should meditate, you know, it's good for you, it does everything. Even if you don't believe in anything mystical, it'll lower your blood pressure. But it always seemed like a big commitment to me that I didn't really want to do. I didn't want to put on the accoutrements or learn, you know, the Hindu gods or anything. But when somebody talked about it
I find the headgear to be rather burdensome in meditation.
What's that?
I find the headgear to be rather burdensome.
Yeah. And the position's a little hard on the back. But when somebody mentioned that you could meditate in little increments in the day, just take like a couple of deep breaths, it seemed like there was a correlative to that about the creative process, that if you just sort of cleanse your palate occasionally during the day. I will sit at the desk and try to solve a problem and just kind of get myself miserable and not get any closer to getting something good on paper. And the thing that has really helped more than anything, honestly, is getting a dog. Because, you know, my wife works during the day and I have to take care of this puppy and walk him occasionally, and it's just the simplest thing, and it takes me away from the work, and I get a little oxygen, and I get a little movement, and back to the desk, and it feels like a whole different world rather than that world of must solve goddamn problems. Suddenly it's, you know, kind of fun again, and the dog has provided me with another point of view on life, which is simpler and nicer and likes to run around.
And do you walk the dog on your tropical island or what?
Yeah. We will retire there.
So dog is your co-pilot.
Well said.
You stole that from Jason Ritter.
Unfollow!
Busted.
One element I think we haven't talked about is, at least for anything that's really performance, well, I think all art is made for someone, but especially if it's performance-based, I get a little refresher by trying to remember that it's like a relationship, and that when I'm sitting at the computer writing, it's not all about me, and maybe I should do something for you guys, and try to think about it from the audience's perspective. And that gives me a little bit of a refresher, because when I'm really getting tense about exactly how do I want this joke to be perfect, you stop and think about, like, well, just really imagine, how is an audience going to react to this joke? You start to remember, they will not really be aware that, he made the wrong choice between duck or goose in that punchline.
That can make a big difference, actually, sometimes. Really big difference.
You're very specialized, Mike Furman. Very specialized. But yeah, so you've set yourself up for failure. So if not cruel to yourself like that. I think it helps to think about it from the outside perspective.
So there's two things that I have to do. I have to find inspiration so that I want to make a thing, and then I have to get out of my own way so that I have the energy to make a thing. And I'm at this interesting sort of point in my life and in my career where I'm sort of an actor and I'm sort of a writer, and for a long time I thought that I had to choose a particular direction and just like give up one or the other. And I hate going to the movies, and a lot of TV is stupid and annoying to me. And I find that I used to be able to recharge by like just sitting down and watching TV. And these days, if I'm going to do that, I actually go to Netflix, and I've been watching these movies from like the 70s when they were really about storytelling, and they didn't mind spending an hour setting a thing up. And I find that